What's up guys, my name is Ace, and Season 2 has now been out for a couple days, and in today's video I wanted to talk about some of the new issues that popped up, some of the things that said they were fixed but weren't actually fixed, as well as just some general thoughts on the season. Now I know some people have been upset with me because I took 2 days to make this video instead of getting it up immediately. Just a reminder for you guys, my weapon balance videos, which are a huge part of this channel and a huge part of what people expect out of me and this channel, they take a ton of time and effort to put together, and I don't typically even get to play a new season until about a day or two after the update hits, because I'm so busy working on that video to share with you guys. So please calm down a little bit when it comes to that. I'm not trying to cover anything up like some people have suggested. I'm simply working on the videos that this channel was built around. And without further ado, let's start this off with some of the new issues that popped up with the season, as well as some persistent issues. The big one here is the Master Prestige congratulations screen that pops up after every match if you have reached Master Prestige. This was supposed to be fixed with the Season 2 update, so it shouldn't be popping up after every single match anymore, but many people are reporting they're still running into this, they're still experiencing this. So it seems they haven't fully fixed this. However, I've also been seeing a lot of reports of a current workaround that you can use to get rid of this for good, and that is if you plug a mouse in and click that continue button when that screen pops up, then apparently that will get rid of that screen for good and it won't pop up again. Now, obviously, ideally, we shouldn't have to use a workaround to do this, and it would be nice if it were just fixed, but in the meantime, if you are experiencing that, you're annoyed with it, and you happen to have a mouse laying around, it is something you can get around, and then hopefully we'll see a fix for controllers soon. And on a very similar note to that, with having to plug a mouse in to do something that you can't achieve with a controller, we still don't have the ability to make really fine adjustments to our sensitivity values unless we plug a mouse and keyboard in. And that's something that is totally backwards because we're adjusting our controller sensitivity values, so obviously we should have the same level of control over our controller sensitivity values when using a controller. But that's not a new issue, it's just something that's sort of tied to what I just mentioned with having to plug in a separate input to make something happen. Next, I have been hearing reports that the teammate-player collision that was meant to be reduced with this update wasn't actually reduced, and some people are saying it actually feels worse. So I did go in and do some testing here, and as you can see, against an enemy player, there's a lot of player collision. I literally can't get past him and through the doorway, no matter how hard I try. Whereas when a teammate's standing in the doorway in the exact same spots, I can easily slip by them, and there's barely any player collision there whatsoever, so this definitely seems like they've reduced this quite drastically. However, of course, that was in a private match. Just to confirm, I also booted up a game of Stakeout, and as you can see here, I tried to block the door with my bot account, and I was able to slip past him, no problem, once again, with very little teammate collision. So as far as I can tell with my testing at least, this absolutely seems to have gone through. I'm not saying it's impossible that some people have run into a bug with this or something, but as far as I can tell, this update did actually happen as intended. Next up, one new issue that popped up with this update is when trying to play with friends, oftentimes you get an error message that say that you're on a different version and therefore can't join your friend. And that one is obviously quite frustrating, so hopefully we get an update for that one soon. Next up, something I noticed immediately with the new update is any of the loadouts that I had that had perk greed on it, which is basically every loadout that I have, it actually deleted my 4th perk from all of my loadouts, and I just had to go reselect that perk. So just something to be aware of. Maybe if you haven't taken a good look at your class setups, I'd recommend doing that because there's a good chance you're actually missing out on a perk if you're using perk greed. Similarly, I'm hearing reports that people are still experiencing an attachment bug where with certain attachments on certain guns, I believe on blueprints only, but I could be mistaken on this, players are equipping an attachment on their gun, but then in the game, that attachment isn't there. It's not on the gun, it's not working for them. This is one that I haven't been able to replicate myself. I've never run into this issue personally, but it does appear based on some comments I've seen that people are still experiencing this. Another thing is it appears they broke split screen with this update, and player 2 is immediately kicked when attempting to enable split screen. This is one that Treyarch has already acknowledged. It is on their Trello board. They're currently investigating this, so we should be seeing a fix for that come. And then finally, I've just been seeing some reports of increased crashing or other performance-related issues, like hardware-related issues, primarily from PC players, but I've also heard some reports from Xbox players that they're just dropping frames and getting a lot of hitching, and in some cases their game is actually crashing when before the update it wasn't. And there we go, that wraps it up for the main bugs and issues that I was able to compile based on multiple reports from people in the community. Now, I just wanted to share some of my experiences with the season now that I finally got my hands on it for a couple hours. And let's first talk about my thoughts on the new maps. When it comes to Dealership, I actually quite like it. I think it's pretty good. I would actually classify that as one of the better maps in this game now. That's not saying a lot, since I think in general the maps are a bit on the lackluster side for Black Ops 6. but it is nice to see another map in the game that I actually enjoy playing and I look forward to playing. As for Bounty, this one I don't hate, but I do find it's a little bit maze-like, and there's also a lot of situations where you'll have various disjointed rooms, and each of those rooms will have a lot of access points. So it can definitely get a bit chaotic at times and really hard to control your surroundings on that map. I think with more playtime, it'll be a bit easier to control, but I've got to say my initial impressions of Bounty weren't particularly positive. I definitely don't mind playing it, but I think part of that is just it's a new map and therefore it's something new and interesting to play on. But I definitely don't like it nearly as much as I like Dealership. And then when it comes to Lifeline, this is that face-off map on the yacht. I personally am just not a fan of face-off, so I won't really be playing this much at all, but I did manage to play a game or two on it. Not a big fan of the fact that one spawn has the height advantage over the other spawn, but at the end of the day, people playing face-off are probably looking for random chaos anyway, and you're gonna get that with Lifeline. As for another topic I wanted to talk about here, in the patch notes they mentioned that they made some spawn improvements, and they also implemented a new system where they can do A/B testing and hopefully make quicker adjustments to the spawns as well to get them into a better spot. But unfortunately, with my fairly limited playtime so far, I didn't really notice any clear changes to the general spawn logic. It still felt pretty much the same, where team deathmatch is way too flippy. I feel like you run to one side of the map, get a kill or two, turn around, do the same thing, and you're just going back and forth on the map with zero map control. And then in Domination, it's still extremely sticky to the point where you can have half your team pushed like right into their spawn zone, but as long as you don't touch their flag, they will keep spawning there even if they're just around the corner from you. And while I definitely like that map control is at least a thing in Domination, they've taken it way too far here to the point where you can have extreme spawn traps. And so definitely not quite the spawn adjustments I was hoping for when I saw that in the patch notes. And then I also wanted to talk about the challenge tracker, because this is one of the things we've been waiting for since launch. It's one of the things we had access to in Modern Warfare 3, and it worked great there. We finally got it in Season 2 for Black Ops 6, and unfortunately, I'm pretty disappointed in their implementation of this. The big issue that I have here is, while you can track 10 camo challenges, for instance, with 10 different guns, when you're actually in the match and you open up your start screen and you scroll over to that, you only get to see the first of those 10 that you're tracking. And that's just not the functionality that I was looking for. Modern Warfare 3 nailed it when it came to this. If you just press the start button, you would see every single one of the challenges you were tracking and your progress toward that without having to scroll anywhere, and it would show all of them on one screen. Whereas now, a great example here is I was grinding my headshots on the PPSH as well as the Fang 82, and I was alternating between the guns depending on the map I was playing. So I started tracking the PPSH camos first, and then second I selected the camos for the Fang 82, but now when I'm in a match, all I can see is my progress on the PPSH camos, even if I'm using the Fang 82, and obviously if I'm using that gun, I want to track what my progress is with that gun, not with the PPSH. But as far as I can tell with their current implementation, there's no way of tracking that. It only shows you the top one that you're tracking. So I think this completely defeats the purpose of being able to select 10 challenges to track, since realistically, you're only tracking one in-game at any given time. So ideally, I'd just like them to do what Modern Warfare 3 did, where it will show you your progress for every single challenge you're tracking, and ideally, it would be nice to not have to scroll at all when you hit start to find out what your progress is. It would be nice to just hit that start button and immediately see all 10 of them displayed, because what we've got right now just isn't cutting it. Aside from that, when it comes to the new weapons, unfortunately I haven't had a chance to get the assault rifle yet. I haven't unlocked it, but I have maxed out the PPSH. I think it feels solid. It's a good SMG. Probably not the best SMG in the game, but not the worst either. It's just pretty good. And then the Fang 82, I'm not a fan personally. It just feels like a really slow and clunky assault rifle with a pre-fire delay. But of course, these are all just my opinions on not only the weapons, but the season in general. Overall, while there have been a few new bugs that are introduced, and I hope they get on top of them quickly, I personally haven't really run into anything that made my game feel worse. And so far, overall, I've found Season 2 to be quite refreshing and a nice step forward for the game. Now, of course, I realize that's not everybody's experience. If you guys are experiencing some of the new issues, I can totally understand being upset with this. But this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about Season 2 of Black Ops 6 multiplayer so far? Are you guys generally enjoying yourself? How are you feeling about the new maps, the new guns? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.